Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you know what lies within nothing?
No.
Do you know where it ends? Do you want to know?
Yes.
Counterbalance, a high fantasy audio drama. Season 2, coming 15th of October 2023. Learn more on trilunas.com.
Welcome back to Angel on Top. Just a few announcements before we get into Are You Now or Have You Ever Been?
I am now, and yes, I have been, Laura. Thank you for asking. First and most importantly, happy 20th anniversary to Angel. Last weekend marked 20 years since the very first episode of Angel aired. What was I doing? I mean, I was 10 years old, probably in a baseball costume that I had repurposed for the last 3 years, just trying to find some dots. What were you doing?
October 1999?
Yeah, I'm talking about Halloween, girl.
Wait, you mean dots like Dippin' Dots?
No, girl, like dots.
What are dots?
The candy dots?
Oh, you were just super into dots.
Yeah, I think that was my dots year. I was like Picasso or Van Gogh. I had different, I was really into dotism.
I had the same favorite candy I still have today, consistent, Milk Duds. Any Milk Dud fans out there? I like when they're, especially when they're fresh picked, when they aren't like too chewy.
You got a dud here. I'm a dud head.
Okay, Dots and Duds.
Yeah.
In October 1999, I was a freshman in high school, our age difference showing. I was rocking some braces. I was playing on JV field hockey and playing African drumming once a week in the school church.
We love that air djembe. We had braces at the exact same time.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
So last week, several of our listeners joined the Angel cast, minus David Boreanaz, at New York Comic Con.
Too busy, huh, David?
I guess we were as well. I mean, really, we just were sitting here with FOMO the whole time.
I am like the David Boreanaz of the LA
what,
lesbian
Brittany?
scene.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to unpack that one.
Sometimes I don't go to the 20th reunion.
Okay. I haven't been invited to these lesbian reunions, and now I feel offended.
Yeah.
We have really loved seeing all of the photos that you have been sending us, rocking your Angel on Top gear while meeting the stars. So thank you for sending us those.
Okay, I unpacked it.
Okay.
It's because nobody really hates me. You could take me or leave me. But I do
great.
a decent job.
I wish everyone could have seen the gesticulation that happened during that. I do a decent job, and you're terrible at an Irish accent.
Ah, yes. So, to honor the occasion, our friends Jenny and Kristen over at our sister podcast, Buffering the Vampire Slayer, gifted us and the world with a brand new Cordelia song about our beloved Queen C's transition from Sunnydale to LA. And you can find that soothing little number on Twitter.
I'm honestly really thrilled that this is the episode we get to talk about to celebrate the anniversary because it's so good. But we're also commemorating 20 years with a new shirt. If you've not snatched one up already, check out our brand spanking new Rogue Demon Hunter tee available at our store on angelontop.com. Click the store tab, and you can also find our store on Merch Now.
It's a pocket tee designed by Devin Power. And as always, Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above get a discount on this and all merch, including an I Love You Cordelia shirt, Big Demon Energy pin, and our titular shirt.
Woo, lots to cover. Lastly, we can't forget about our Season 1 Consent Watch results. Another ew, ew, ew. We spent all summer long running a poll to determine y'all's pick for the ultimate fuck watch pick of Season 1. The finalists, maybe unsurprisingly, came down to Cordelia wielding a crossbow and in the dark versus the few centimeters of space between Lila and Faith in 5x5.
It was a tough showdown, but ultimately and unsurprisingly, Queen Cordelia reigned supreme in the end.
As is right. Welcome back to Angel on Top, a podcast where we watch and discuss every episode of Angel, one by one, spoiler free, and in tandem with Buffering the Vampire Slayer. I'm Laura Zach.
And I'm Brittany Ashley. And this week we're watching Are You Now or Have You Ever Been? Stick around until the end for an original poem written by us through the perspective of Angel, who has a lot of feelings to write about this episode.
Are You Now or Have You Ever Been was written by Tim Minear, our boy, and it was directed by David Semel. It aired on October 3rd, 2000.
This is the one where we go back in time and see Angel aiding a woman hiding from her past in a hotel with a long history of death and mayhem.
It's also the one where Mrs. Maisel guest stars, question mark? So much to say,
So much to say, so much to say, so much to say.
Oh, that is.
God.
Oh, I'm glad to be back with you, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I came in here, I was thinking, I feel like I haven't seen you in a while.
I feel like I haven't seen you in a very long time.
Yeah, and so it feels good. Especially it feels good to talk about this episode because this is this is an objectively great episode of television, IMO.
And you're actually not alone in your IMO because this episode is a personal fave of David Boreanaz's and Alexis Denisov's, and Tim Minear loved writing this episode, and I quote, "It rang my inner gong." That's a very Tim Minear thing to say.
That was a Tim. That was a Timmy thing.
That was a Tim. This is a Timism.
You know that every time I'm like happy with something I've written, I'm going to say that to you now.
Yeah. It rang my inner gong.
I will say though, I mean, the episodes in this show have strong story structure. Like they're well written, but like I've never actually up until now noticed the writing being particularly good as I did in this episode.
I mean, it very much reminded me of the Buffy episode in season 2, I Only Have Eyes for You. Like it's something that's hearkening back to something really traumatic that happened in the past, and they have to figure it out in the present, and somehow it relates to the characters in our universe as well. And it was just like solidly an emotional episode that had to do with some deep-seated feelings for sure.
So many feelings. So we start in with something a little bit unusual. We aren't going to start with a Cordelia vision. We're just going to start with Angel kind of assigning Wesley and Cordelia a project, being like, here, this hotel, look into it.
Yeah, we got a lot to roll through in this episode, so I'm just going to get right to the brass tacks.
And they're like, Angel, what exactly are we doing here? Like, what's the client? And he's like, there's no client, keeping it really cryptic. Also, there's a moment here where Cordelia is serving up tea and coffee and serves
Angel blood.
Yeah, which, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not a thing that we see.
No.
As the episode goes on, we see that it's somewhat connected to something we see in the flashback, but this isn't like a True Blood situation where we're like figuring out the hijinks of finding Angel his blood.
No, like how did Cordelia get that? And why is she taking the time to store it in her fridge? She's really being kind of taken advantage of as an employee, I would say. She's also like fetching the beverages
and adding cinnamon.
Yeah.
She's like, I tried something new, you know? What wasn't my favorite moment, but okay, I guess this is a thing. We'll see if they stick with it. Too late.
We can't think about it because we're in a flashback, baby. It's hustling. It's bustling.
It's 1952.
Yeah. Want to hear a fun fact?
Oh, truly.
Oh, I thought that was a no.
I may have been, and I may have turned it around mid-ugh.
Well, now I know.
No. I'm excited. Please tell me.
The hotel manager is played by actor John Kapelos, who is a regular cast member of the show Forever Knight. That's Knight with a K. The show is about a vampire/cop/detective trying to atone for his past sins by solving murder cases. A stroke of the chin, that sounds familiar.
Did he play the vampire detective?
He just played a cast member. But still, the fact that show existed, that he was in that. And
typecasting much?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And the bellhop and the manager are having
Maybe that's our next podcast.
Forever Night.
Rewatch.
Yeah. And the bellhop has a very like Rob Schneider in Home Alone 2 Lost in New York
I definitely
vibe.
felt like I've seen him in many like small part.
Yeah, but he is terrified to deliver mail to some guy that's staying at the hotel. We just know that this guy's fucking weird. There's nothing going on behind his eyes. But one thing that we do know is that judging from the room number, which is room 217, there's strong allusions to The Shining.
Oh, go on.
So this is actually very fresh in my mind because I watched The Shining for the very first time this last week.
Oh, relevant. Are you doing the Halloween, like 30 days, 30 movies thing?
It's inconsistent between my watch of Love Island, but yes. So 217 is the room number that Jack Torrance visits where, you know, he sees the wife who was murdered corpse, whatever, you get it. But in the book, it's 217. However, in the Stanley Kubrick film, it's 237. But that's not the only reference to The Shining in this episode. Old Jossie Boy is a big fan of The Shining. So there's a couple different references to it. Obviously, this unseen force that is forcing people in the hotel to kind of like go a little batshit. That is the entire plot of The Shining. That's Jack Torrance basically going insane and trying to kill his wife and his son because the hotel, you know, made him feel that way. And also the main character hearkening back to a character that was there in like the 20s. That's similar to the way that they see Angel in the photograph in the 50s. Where it's like they existed in both of these kind of timelines.
See, I assume that this entire episode was based on nonfiction about the Hotel Cecil. But maybe it's a little bit of both.
Maybe it's a little combination between the cease and the shin.
A little cease shin. And I'll get into some of the history of the Hotel Cecil when it feels right.
Oh, you are armed with some fun facts as well.
I sure am, Brittany.
But then we see the guy.
Yeah, and you want to know what? Yes, hetero, but Angel in the flashback is hot.
Yeah. Angle, it looks really good.
Yeah.
With his, I think it's that hair and he like...
And that like,
really, like
maroon button up.
Yeah, well, that is also a reference to Rebel Without a Cause when he is also like at Griffith and he's wearing that shirt. It's like what James Dean was wearing then. And yeah, this is chock full of some fun references. But I will say that I was hoping for some sort of, you know, change in 50s Angel like speech or cadence or anything, just some 50s slang, and we got none of that.
No, we just got advanced brood.
Yes.
Like ultimate brood.
Extra lonely.
And also they establish up top, in case you weren't sure if it was the 50s.
Here's some overt racism.
Here's some segregation, some racism. Here's some like covert homosexual activity between two robed men caressing each other's faces.
Angel's just starting to notice some things about the hotel. He's being a little observant. He's being a little detective, and he doesn't even know it. Detective Angel. Some spooky things going on.
Yeah, when he's going out for that ice bin, he sees one dude talking to himself. He sees another dude like knocking aggressively on a door, but you can tell he's just sort of like ambivalent to it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes into his room and Mrs. Maisel is there pretending to be the maid. It's Judy. She promises she's not a thief. Which is again,
funny.
Yeah, there's so many moments in this script that like are foreshadowing, but not in a way that you know are foreshadowing. So put a pin in this one, folks.
Yeah.
She says she's not a thief, okay? And then it becomes clear that this is someone in crisis. And it's also clear that this is a point in Angel's journey where he definitely has not yet chosen to take on helping anyone, or like he's not started on the path of redemption. He's just depressed.
This is kind of like the origin story of that in a way.
Right. And this is maybe the first damsel that's going to get under his little skin. And she basically makes this story about like, oh my God, my boyfriend's coming to get me. He has quite a temper and, you know, you got to help me, sir. Then he hears the little like lock picking on his door, and he opens it to the same guy that he saw like knocking on the other door. and they have a butch off.
Yeah. Yeah, but Angel drags that chump out by his ear, and he's like, tells Judy, like, sorry, ma'am, I'm closed for business.
She's very straight for Boreanaz in that moment. And the bellhop, honestly, like, sometimes there's a fine line between fear and attraction.
Yeah.
So when that guy gets thrown by the air into the elevator, I think there's a little bit, you know.
He's got a broody stare and hot spiky hair. If you're straight or gay, your tingly feelings don't care. You're just being honest about this sexy demonic in your bye for Boreanaz. Bye for Boreanaz. Bye for Boreanaz.
Fun crossover fact. The woman who plays Judy, her name is Marissa Marsala. And in 2010, she did a little guest spot on a little TV show called Bones. Excuse me.
Cut it out.
Dr. Bones reporting for duty. I'm here to look at your bones, but also I'm a detective, I think.
But definitely a woman. We definitely are establishing that we now know that Bones is a woman.
Yes.
Some listeners got very mad when we assumed that Bones was David Boreanaz because neither of us have ever seen even a trailer of that show.
And David Boreanaz's name in Bones is, weirdly enough, Gones. Detective Gones.
Fake news.
Then we come back to the present, and we see that Angel remembers all this, in fact, but has not told Cordelia and Wesley that he's been to this hotel, let alone that he lived in this hotel.
The way we know he remembers it is he's delicately stroking the outside of door 217.
Yeah, they've got history, him and 217. But Cordelia and Wesley are basically researching the history of this place and why the hotel is so unattractive, why it's been vacant for years and years and years. And it's because people do crazy shit in this hotel. There's shooting rampages, a worker jumping off a roof and taking people with him. Then they find that picture that I was talking about when I was, talking about The Shining, and they see that Angel is in the picture, and they're like, okay, why didn't he tell us? They're like, maybe he was ashamed.
And as we know from Brene Brown, shame is the most devastating of all emotions.
Especially for men.
Truly. There's not as many places to put it. This is where I'm going to insert some facts about the Hotel Cecil.
Do it.
Because I didn't know about the Shining connection. So I just assumed that Joss was playing off of the real spooky history of the Hotel Cecil in downtown Los Angeles, which is what American Horror Story, the hotel season, was based on. It's what our friend Rachel Stavis, who those of you who listened to season 1 would have heard our interview with her. It's sort of one of the locations in LA that she's focused on for paranormal supernatural activity. It is a hotel that was built in 1925, so very similar time frame, because this fictional hotel in this episode was built in 1928. And it's the site where tragically and most recently famously the Canadian Elisa Lam died under mysterious circumstances. But it's also where the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, was last seen before her disappearance in 1947. It's where 2 different serial killers took residence during their respective worst killing sprees. And there were so many suicides that occurred there in the 1940s through 60s that it was dubbed the Suicide.
Ooh.
Yikes. Got to get that out of there. Echo
Yeah.
Park is like right next to downtown.
That is roof stoof. With some harsh barley. But we're back in the 50s with Angel. And
I feel like I just felt like Jenny Owen Youngs was here and she would have like made us pause to
Yeah,
be
to be
like,
let's unpack
oh,
this.
Brittany, she just would have cackled in that moment.
Yeah.
So just know that we felt you, Jenny.
Yeah. So now there's another guy in a hat. Everybody keep up with all these men in hats. And we're like, oh, this guy loves listening to records loudly. But then we see that he has a gun. And
bummer.
we are pretty sure we know what's about to happen. But he...
And he's clearly talking to a voice we can't hear because he's like, yep, I sure do. And then goes over, gets the gun. And then sure enough, he shoots himself. And we cut to Angel in the next room sipping some blood unaffected.
And let me tell you this, Laura, there's nothing more terrifying than a record player that gets caught on a loop for the same 4 seconds. Could be any song. If it gets caught on a loop for 4 seconds, It's the most evil thing I've ever experienced.
I agree. And also just the, what is it called? The like device, the mechanism, the trope. What is it? What's the right word? Of in films when something terrifying happens, pairing that with a cheerful song. It gets me every time.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when sad movies manipulate you into crying, it's like that equivalent of being spooky. I get spooked.
It's like innocence and evil.
Merged together. Who would have thought? It
Not
affects me. And then we get a little a fun little like industry group that we check in with throughout the episode, which honestly I didn't need them. I felt like they were the Pope in the pool type thing. Like, let's find an interesting way to be expositional. They're just trying to figure out what's going on in this place.
Yeah, I'm curious if they were there mainly just to like set the tone of the kind of like communist themes that were happening.
Yeah, and I think, you know, since we're going to build to a place where the demon that it has a grip on the hotel affects everyone and ends up leading to this mob mentality later, I think it's showing us some more small characters that then can like build to this place where everyone's in on it. And we get a gorgeous shot of the Griffith Park Observatory at night.
Beautiful. And Judy shows up. She somehow found him while he's just, you know, having a cigarette, just having a little cig.
Looking over the skyline, twinkling down below.
Because even a lonely vampire likes beauty. You know what I'm saying? And she needs help from him. She says that she admits that this guy who's after her is not her boyfriend. And she really, she wants Angel's aid. And he's resistant to it. He doesn't want it. He just wants to mind his own biz and smoke a cig.
The way she delivered, like, this scene is one of those moments where I was like, okay, Tim Minear, you were having a little fun. Like, she's talking about going into the planetarium show and, like, just makes our problem seem insignificant in comparison. You know, the whole universe explodes. Like, clearly, you know, and to this day, they have those shows at the planetarium there, which are really great. And Angel's just being so aloof, so extra broody. It's clear that he's moved on from that first really chaotic stage where he was kind of like wandering the street and like dirty all the time. And now he's just he's in the depressed start of his stages of grief.
Well, you want to hear something quite interesting about what you just said?
I would love to hear what's interesting about what I just said.
So some fans of Buffy had said that this whole vibe of Angel being this type of person in the 50s is retconning, which is short for retroactive continuity, which is when established facts are ignored to serve the purpose of a new story. And in this case, Buffy fans and Angel fans were pointing out how Angel lived on the streets in New York City, that he would have been living on the streets in the city at this time. But Tim's response was, I don't believe that he was thrown out of that room in Romania by Darla in 1898 and has been on the streets ever since. The 1950s was the beginning of his descent into the streets. So this was like his descent into like the guilt and loneliness that we saw, not the other way around.
Wait, so he is wandering dirty after this?
Yeah.
Whoa. So I guess what happens in this episode, that would be an inciting incident to make things worse for him.
Yes.
Okay.
And that would track with the ending of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Science. So they figure out Wesley and Cordelia are kind of like trying to keep up with the pace of the flashbacks. And they find out this tidbit that the bellhop was framed for murder.
Which honestly, after seeing the end of this episode, I'm kind of cool with, because I think he would have been a murderer anyways.
Yeah, and I felt bad for him in this moment until I had seen the end of the episode.
Yeah,
I was
he
like,
was
no.
like, not to jump around, but he was the only one of everyone who took like a sick pleasure in hanging Angel. So
yeah, and we learned that he was executed in 54. So R.I.P. bellhop, but not really. And then Cordelia refers to we get a rare puzzle reference. She refers to this game as "Who died horribly because Angel screwed up 50 years ago" game.
Yeah, and in a way, it's tough because in a way he did screw up by giving up, but also you understand why he went deeper into feeling alone and like an other, because he was just hung out to dry. Ugh.
Yeah, but I mean, all of those people were acting because they were possessed.
I don't actually think in those moments they were being possessed.
In which moments?
Like when they all went like mob mentality on him. I don't think that every one of them was possessed to believe that Angel was bad. I think that he was a perfect scapegoat for the horrors of what was going on.
Do you think that Judy was possessed when she blamed him? It's questionable.
It's questionable.
We do see
her
her
more
get
than
some
anyone
whispers,
else.
though. We do
Yes.
see her get the whispers.
Yeah, I think that he was the perfect scapegoat for her because she didn't want to go to jail. So
Right.
this was easy but I don't think that any of the rest of them were.
I don't know if
We're
I
getting the
fully agree, but
wispies.
I do agree that it was left for interpretation.
Mm.
So it's clear that Judy Maisel has pegged Angel as like,
She pegged him hard.
well, that she can tell that he's someone who's gonna help her out, or that
Right.
she can potentially trust. And I guess now she's living 2 doors down from him. Or I guess she was the whole time, and she had hopped over to his room when her boyfriend, aka the PI, was there. And so she calls Angel over to her room. You can tell that she's especially nervous about this suicide thing and the fact that some people think it's a murder because she doesn't want the cops to come.
Yeah, the fuzz is going to be onto this place.
She's doing a lot of like projecting. She's like, thought you'd want to know that the cops might be here, you know, in case you've got something to hide.
You know,
And
because you're weird.
yeah. And Angel's like, everybody's got something to hide.
Yeah,
And-
in retrospect, he does kind of sound like a killer.
And he is one.
Yeah.
And then we learn her true story, which is that she used to have a sweet job at a bank in Kansas. She was a teller. She was engaged to this hunk named Peter. And then she got pissed and panicked because she lost her job and lost her fiance because it was revealed that she was passing as white and was actually mixed race.
At first, when she said, I'm passing, I thought there was like a trans storyline that I wasn't picking up on.
I know. I was like, shit, this episode's hitting racism. It's hitting homophobia. It's hitting trans characters.
Yeah.
Like, who knew?
Yeah.
Year 2000, Tim Minear. But no,
She got fired because she was not white.
correct. And of course, when I saw this scene, I looked at IMDb, crossing my fingers with expectations extremely low to see if there's any chance that Melissa Marsala was herself part black. And no, she is Italian and Chinese. You know, Joss, I gave it a shot, and that checks out.
Thank you so much.
Again, one of these lines where, and I think maybe this is why the cinnamon blood scene was even there. Angel says, "It's just blood, Judy. It's all just blood." Whoa, man. Symbolic. Basically, Angel is connecting with her about knowing what it's like to feel like you're not one thing or the other, like you don't belong, like you don't have a place. And it makes me realize, like, 1950s Angel, A, is kind of woke. B, it begs the question, is part of this commentary that bigotry is a symptom of soullessness? And that, like, part of Angel, like, especially after committing so many atrocities and then being ensouled, like, if there's something about having the soul in the way he has that, like, allows him to experience people and not have the same prejudices and bigotry that people of his era would have, even though, like, he's moving through time in a way where progress is happening, but he seems to just kind of be consistent with, like, how he views people.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, certainly in regards to other vampires, 1,000,000%. But I think it also probably makes him more evolved than most mortals. Like,
Yeah,
by
that's
far.
that's how it seems. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, one of the major themes of this episode is the loneliness that comes with being an other, whether it's racially or with your sexual orientation or being an ensouled vampire. The hotel in some way or another seems to attract some sort of like otherness, and that's why they're the most vulnerable to these acts, I suppose. That's it. The demon, which we'll come to learn, kind of feeds on that loneliness.
Right, which makes sense too when you think about kind of repeat offenders and predators, mortal human predators in real life, about how, like, a lot of times their patterns are based on targeting people who are vulnerable and isolated and don't have like their family around them, or like may not be fully healed from something else that's happened. Like people learning to read when someone is going to be easier to victimize.
Totally. And when society doesn't, society as a whole, or, media representation doesn't really care about the disappearance or the loss of this type of person.
Right. And so back in the present, Cordy and Wes are finding out about Judy at the same time that we're seeing this. And they're like, fugitive woman presumed dead in 52. She's rather pretty. Seems like she needed help. We know Angel's there. Sounds familiar.
But also, we learned that Judy was never heard from again. So everyone else, they can kind of pinpoint, when they died or when they checked out of the hotel or blah, 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 blah.
And also they had mentioned that the hotel finally closed down when I think the manager went and like shot everyone dead. So that was sort of the culmination.
Right. But Judy, however, they never really found out where her story ended. So just hold on to that like a piece of chocolate.
Hi, I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life. I talked to acclaimed director and executive producer Roland Emmerich.
When I saw the first race, I was like giddy.
Actor Ewan Ryan.
For an actor, that's a dream, although you do get a lot of sand in your sandals.
And so many more.
You helped summon those ghosts back onto that stage.
Every day when I went to set, I was giggling about like what I saw.
I think it's going to be a breathtaking thing.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone. So we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural then and now.
Angel's going to help Judy out, so he takes her into the basement. And
also, it's crazy that she trusts Angel, by the way.
Oh, wait, yeah, true. But did we even say that she's got a bag of money?
She robbed the
was
bank.
Like, fuck all of you.
Yeah.
I'm robbing this damn bank and I'm taking this leather satchel to Los Angeles with me. And so she's been on the run and that guy was a PI looking for her. So Angel's like, I've got a crazy idea. Let's take this bag and let's fucking hide it.
Did we ever find out what happened to the money?
Yeah, we see him find it in the future.
Where was I?
I don't know. There's a whole scene where he pulls it out of the ceiling and
oh yeah, I remember now.
Takes the dust off, and then I'm like, you better not tell Cordelia you had access to that.
Yeah.
In season 1 when you were hard up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we find out who this demon is.
Well, first of all, Angel in this scene in the basement. It's the first time he acknowledges that he knows there's something in the hotel causing people to act crazy.
Right, because he says exactly those words. Something in this hotel is making people crazy.
And Judy is wondering out loud if maybe she should just return the money to the steps of the bank. And then she's like, there is such a thing as forgiveness, right? Foreshadowing much. And then, we see him
forgiveness. You got to have faith. I feel like you're a little buff. Yeah. A lot of foreshadowing. Oh, look, a willow tree.
Okay. You're a little buff. That's a good one. Yeah. So then we find out Cordelia's wearing an amazing polka dotted tank. And Cordelia is basically like, oh yeah, a demon whispers to victims and feeds on their innate insecurities.
Boy, don't I relate to that.
Angel's on the line. Yeah, I think you might have one of those.
A paranoia demon.
And I think Rachel would call that a Clive. The one
but
that...
How come she didn't see it?
Because I don't think you actually have a demon, Brittany. I think you... it's just maybe some patterns that you're dealing with. I mean, I'm not going to shrink you right now.
Shrink me like a...
Hey, Jerry.
Shrink me like a chicken breast.
Fucking shrink me right now. Like a chicken breast?
Yeah, like when you shrink wrap it.
Oh, okay. I was thinking more like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, yeah. You can do that too. I think that...
Do you, when you experience...
My paranoia.
Your negative self-talk,
do
you hear it as a voice?
It's more of a bodily feeling. It's like it's not
She just gestured to her vagina.
No, I was trying to say it's funny because I just came from therapy, so I'm all about talking
That's
about
hilarious.
Yeah. So we were talking.
What did Amy have to say?
Well, we were talking about my insecurities and the deeper feeling of feeling unsafe, and that's where a lot of the paranoia comes from. We were talking about like top down versus like bottom up, and it's like I feel something in my brain, and so that creates a chain reaction into my body. But sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference of like where it starts. You know what I mean? Because sometimes my body so deeply feels something that it's felt before that feels familiar. It triggers
so
it, and then it goes up
at
to my
this
brain.
Point. Right.
Yeah, and so it's like a, and obviously we can get into more of this, but it's like a process of transference that I'm feeling something that I felt before, and so I'm in my head, I'm like, this is exactly like it was before,
Right.
but it's not that. It's just like
feelings aren't facts. It's
Yeah.
like crafting a narrative that would justify the feeling.
Right. And so, I mean, if my therapist was in this hotel, she would tell everyone that they need to make their bodies feel safe.
Ooh, she would be busy.
Yeah, like, today she told me that when I feel unsafe, to make my body feel safe by grabbing a blanket, making myself a nice cup of tea, perhaps feeling my feet on the ground and my elbows in a chair. And I was like, Amy, I don't want to make tea, okay? I want thoughts that I can tell myself to stop it. But I think something that I do have to do to limit the paranoia and the ruminating feelings of paranoia is that I have to ground my body. So that's what I would tell everyone in this hotel.
Alternately, you could raise the demon with a ritual and make it corporeal to kill it with an axe.
I could do that. It is crazy how most times in my mind it's like I'm in this hotel.
So there's a guy at a demon shop. I guess his name's Denver.
Yeah, I love this guy. I weirdly like this guy.
Yeah, I liked him too. I felt like he wasn't being hokey when Angel called him out for being kind of like performative with his like throwing the Bible at him and having
this is also the 50s. And the fact that he was able to turn on a dime so quickly spoke to like a larger feeling of knowing that he could trust Angel. Like then they seemed like buds.
And I liked that he could sense that Angel was a vampire so quickly. That also shows that he's very good at his job.
Yeah.
And maybe this was just me, and I think it was just me. I don't think this was intentional in the show, but I was confused in this scene only about if it was the past or the present.
So did I.
So maybe that was intentional because I thought they were pulling like a This Is Us type thing. Where
Wait
it's
a minute.
Like,
it might have... No, that'd be impossible.
It was in the past because then when the mob attacks Angel, it's the thing that justifies taking him down is they find the axe.
You're right.
So that was in the past.
Yeah, but when we first got to it, I thought it was the present.
Exactly. And in the present with Wesley's like, okay, I'll get right on researching how to do this exorcism. And Angel's like, already did. And he meant he did 50 years ago.
Yeah.
This has been like a long con for Angel, and it makes me wonder why now.
Orba Ramjaran, haven't heard that name in years.
Yeah, this is like an ex he was not ready to face yet.
Yeah.
And then something about this moment in his journey, he's ready.
And it's wild that it took us this long of knowing Angel. It's been, what? We've known Angel for 4 seasons and 2 episodes, and we finally found the like origin story of this? That's insane.
I agree.
And the first time that he helps someone they betray him, and then that sends him on this downward spiral of eating rats. How relatable, honestly.
Incredibly.
So now that PI dude is searching for Judy amidst the little like peanut gallery of Hollywood types searching for the murderer. So wrong place, wrong time, Jude, because they then assume that she's the murderer. Because it's like the PI's coming in and is like, I need to find this woman. And they're like,
Right.
well, obviously she's the murderer.
And Angel rushes up to see the mob fixated on her. And she's like, no, please, gosh, golly. It wasn't me. And then she catches, locks eyes with Angel coming down the hallway. And at first you think she's going to rush to him for safety.
You
and
sure
instead
do.
she rushes forward and then says, it's him. Look at his room. He's a monster. And
there are a few moments in TV nowadays that actually surprised me. And that was actually quite surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Because you thought of what she was going to do. And he was going to like save her. And he was going to get in a fight with all these dudes. But no, she pinned it on kind of one of the most vulnerable people in the hotel. Who people already were like, you're weird. Even though he's like really attractive too. You know what I mean?
So attractive.
Yeah. So it's
Ooh.
wild that people didn't find his quirks like charming. Instead, they were like, you're a murderer. In the present now, Angel, Wes, Gunn, and Cordelia are going to do this incantation spell. And fun little bit is that we see tension between Gunn and Wesley. And we see that now, since Gunn is like a part of this foursome, that Wesley's rigidity and Gunn just being a fucking cool person is going to clearly clash.
Yeah, it's going to cause some insecurity in our Wesley boy.
Oh,
buddy. And
then the next scene is fucking
the worst.
Brutal.
Yeah, truly terrible. And
again, Frank is a psycho.
That's the bellhop?
Yeah.
Yeah. He the whole group is like, let's hang him. There's no due process here, even though there is a police officer, presumably here. They just decide, like, you know what we should do is hang him. And this is why I think that they were possessed. Like,
I thought it was just mob mentality.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, because hanging him is pretty intense. Like, there's a few reasons I think that they were under the influence. And again, I think it's a delicate balance. I think, and like the demon says, like later, I think it is a combination of the dark side of humanity with, it's like he just tipped them over the edge. It's not that they didn't have the capacity in them. He just fueled what was already there, which is also how paranoia works. It's like the insecurity that's already there, you're just going to exaggerate. Right. And so I think they were in the grips of that. And they hang him from the upper balcony.
And also the hotel manager is like, this is a good idea for my business.
Right. And again, that's why. And then as soon as they do it, they all kind of like shake out of it and are like, holy shit, what just happened? How did we just do that? It also reminded me of like, I know you never finished this, but truly now that we're back in spooky month, I'm going to like plea for you to do it because it's so amazing. Yes. It reminds me of the Bent Neck Lady episode. Incredible. But they all snap out of it, which also says to me there was like something, and again, mob mentality plus demon. Okay, but here's the thing that for me felt super confusing. Why would the PI now just give up on taking in Judy?
Yeah, that's insane.
And I wasn't sure if that was like a hole in the plot or if that was because he was possessed. Like he's like now doesn't care anymore.
Right, or if Judy was like, obviously it was that guy.
Who also stole from a bank in Kansas. This is just what he does.
Yeah, this guy, he's insane. It's all him. So Angel obviously didn't need oxygen like those little freaks. And so he's alive.
His eyes pop right open and he is hurt.
Yeah, and that demon with a zillion tentacles comes basically like into the hotel. And he's talking about how nummy his meal was. And he said, you restored her faith in people. Now there's a hotel full of tortured souls who could really use your help. So when he was referring to like making them more plump, is that like they are more full when they feel more guilty and more tortured?
No, I felt like Judy was going to be a more scrumptious snack when she was more like idealistic and full of love and hope. Like, because there was more for him to suck from and like destroy.
Interesting, because I feel like that's the opposite of what we were taught from Exorcist Rachel, which is that demons or entities feed more on people who are at the lower vibrations. Like, they don't even fuck with people who are at high vibrations.
Yeah, I don't think this Star Wars Emperor looking demon is like following Rachel's rules.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is pretty rad.
Yeah.
Like,
he does kind of look like Darth Maul.
And he's kind of eloquent, but also speaks like he's like a fast food restaurant spokesperson.
I feel like I found your fuck watch pick.
No.
Should we do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Fuck watch.
So initially it was gonna go with Angel doing Rebel Without a Cause James Dean cosplay.
I mean, objectively so hot, but still so early in the season.
But then the character that I related to the most was sweet, sweet, paranoid Wesley.
Really?
Yeah.
That made you a little hot for him?
It didn't. Okay, Laura.
You had empathy for
Laura,
him.
yes. Okay, Laura.
Brittany?
Fuck watch to me is not about who gets me the most hot.
Okay.
It's about
you're really gonna make it sound like that. Okay, go ahead.
Evolve, Laura. This was about who I felt most emotionally connected to, and that was certainly Wesley, who, when the demon calls out Wesley specifically, I feel like that would have been me in some other case if I was like part of some foursome crime fighting duo. It would be just my luck that some paranoia demon
totally
would be like,
especially that one.
Yeah, and I'd be like spending the whole time being like, what do you mean?
You'd be like, was that demon mad at me?
Yeah. Yeah, and then like even after we defeated him, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm glad we did that. But also like, do you really think I'm paranoid? Like, have people been talking about me? Like, do you think I should feel this way?
So all of this is just some delicious foreplay for you. You're like, Wesley, let's go talk about our feelings.
Honestly, I feel seen.
Okay, that's fair.
Who's yours?
For me, and like, whatever, don't make this a thing, no homo. But for me, the character that I felt most connected to and like I would have a fun time with and then maybe it would turn sexy was Denver.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I say no homo is because I thought when you said the person you related to the most, I thought you were going to say him because I feel like you guys have similar vibes.
What? What does that mean?
Like if you lived in that world in 1952.
I would be a bookshop kind of owner who had connections to the occult, who would initially be very angry that a vampire went into my small business, but then after he revealed himself to be okay, I'd be like, what's up, dude?
Yeah, you'd be kind of like, no, but and I don't see it as angry even. I see it as like savvy, informed, but then when there's a turn, just down to clown.
Yeah, I'd be like, what's up, dude? You want to orb a rangerin? How old are you?
Yeah,
like, dude, you want to get a beer?
By the way, that's going to be like
free 99.
Yeah, that's going to be free 99 right here. And like, honestly, like you want this grocery bag? Throw that axe on in there.
Yeah.
And then stop by literally any time, dude. I really enjoyed myself.
So I think that it's not necessarily attraction. You're just craving the companionship of me, a friend whom you miss.
Yeah, I guess both of us in our Fuck Watch picks have chosen companionship over eroticism, and I respect that.
I respect that.
Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Fuck Watch.
I just want to real quick repeat back some of Emperor Demon's words.
Please.
Because they're pretty incredible.
Suck them to me.
He was like, God, I love people. They feed me the worst, and I feed it right back to them. Fear and prejudice turns to certainty and hate, and I take another bite. What a beautiful dance. Like, literally, he's speaking like he's in a commercial, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take the bucket of 12.
Yeah. The part that I screenshotted when I was listening with closed captioning, and I think just needs to go on my tombstone, is the paranoia here is like fine wine.
Also, when he's like, you see what happens when you stick your neck out for them? They stick a rope around it.
Yeah.
I just thought he was really nimble with his words.
Yeah. Well, he's been waiting a really long time, I think, to say them. But he also kind of reminded me of Phantom Dennis's mom, who was like, who was fixated on a certain place and then was digging into specific personal insecurities to make someone go insane.
Wow,
But
never thought I'd think about Phantom Dennis's mom again. And honestly, thank you.
Yeah. But I will say, when he comes back 40 years later,
didn't notice the tentacles first time.
He's aged really well. I need to know his skincare regimen. But anyhow, they defeat him in the present.
But not before he calls out Wesley for being the most paranoid of them all.
Right. And then after they defeat him, Angel goes back upstairs. And he's going to room 214. That's Judy's room.
Uh-oh.
And we see an old ass woman.
Yeah, someone unlike the Deem.
Yeah.
Didn't age so well. Aged just normally.
And I have many questions. Like, how did she
so
eat?
Many questions.
Yeah.
Why wasn't she there before? At first, I was like, is she a ghost or is she real? If she's real, why didn't he just talk to her from the beginning and forgive her that?
Yeah, all my questions have to do with how did she eat. But she says, I don't hear them anymore. Like, the voices are finally gone. Angel has given her peace, and she recognizes him. She's like, it's you. You look the same. And then, obviously, with deeper meaning, Angel says, but I'm not the same. Like, he has grown so much in this point. And honestly, he really could have fucked with her and been like, what are you talking about, Jude? It's 1952. Where you been? Or downstairs having a drink. But he didn't. He instead basically like welcomes her into her death, and she's finally at peace with what she did to him. And I think
gives her the gift of forgiveness.
Yes.
And then ushers her into the next realm.
Yeah, and obviously forgiveness was like a huge piece of this beautiful pie. However, I also think the lesson is that paranoia and fear can silently ruin you if it doesn't immediately. And I think it's really terrifying to feel like unsafe and hurt and vulnerable. But when you lean into the uncertainty that is life, it becomes less treacherous.
And also, I think there's specifically a thread of commentary about the fear and the paranoia driving prejudice and hatred.
Totally, yeah,
being
absolutely.
The source of that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there was something rather like graceful and poignant about the way they showed how it's really like everyone's interior voices that is causing that sort of like external discrimination. Hate.
Yeah. Honestly, I started to tear up. I started to squirt some when Judy died.
Just gonna rest for a minute.
Yeah, she wanted to go out.
And I'm going to go out. And jokes on her. Downtown LA in 2000 would not have been.
She would have had a heart attack.
Yeah, that would. It's maybe better that she got to go.
Again, my biggest questions have to do with how did she eat for the last 50 years?
Well, if presumably,
and if there's no plumbing,
if she was the last victim of the demon, if the manager in his murder spree killed everyone else except for her, then maybe it was just some sort of like rule that like if you're being inhabited by this demon, like you don't have like the typical needs. I don't know.
But anyhow, Angel gets back downstairs and Cordelia is like, I'll be glad to see the last of this place. The heebie-jeebies this place gives me. And then Angel, listening to absolutely nobody, is like, we're moving in.
Yeah. He's like, this is not a house of evil, not anymore, which for me suggests like he sees now this location as sort of like an allegory for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And redemption, yo.
Yeah.
And
leaning into the fear and paranoia and letting life and all its uncertainties
power of
overtake you.
vulnerability.
Yeah.
Really, that's what this
Brene
episode's
Brown.
about. Brene, beautiful episode. Thank you for writing this for
Yeah.
us.
Thank you, Brene Manier.
And then poor little Wesley. Hey, Angel.
You don't find me especially paranoid, do you?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so the Brittany.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Angel on Top. I'm Laura Zach, and when I'm not kicking it with freaking Denver, if that's even his name.
It is.
I am a writer and producer and sometimes actor. And you can find me on social media or visit laurazach.com.
And I'm Brittany Ashley, and when I'm not being swallowed by paranoia, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brit27Ash. Or you can check out my website, BrittanyAshleyFunny.com.
And you can also follow Angel on Top on Instagram and Twitter at AngelOnTopCast. And you can email us really anything at angelontoppodcast@gmail.com.
And now, please enjoy the poem for Are You Now or Have You Ever Been? From Angel's point of view. Are you now or have you ever been? Replacing the office falls low on my priorities. Look, I get cinnamon spice blood in the morning. A sunshine-less space hits me in my chiseled face. I'll let Cordy and Wes suss out the warnings. Zero fond memories from room 217. Jack Torrance would certainly agree. If only more front desks didn't check IDs, then from this hotel mouth, I'd certainly flee. A hall full of characters who can't see my truth, just a dark loner with really choice hair. But when a faux maid breaks in and interrupts my reclusion, I'll toss a guy, but please find help elsewhere. Catching the view at Griffith, hoping for peace, but this damsel in distress refuses to cease. Helping some mortals not high on my list. Just want blood, a smoke, yeah, that's the gist. But when Judy's been othered and feels alone, her struggle has suddenly become one of my own. Guess I'm not the only tenant in insufferable pain. Something in this hotel makes people go insane. To take down this demon, I'll need reinforcements, but the occult pickings are mighty slim. At first reluctant, but then completely charmed, Denver lends me his orb of Ramjarin. Armed with orb and Sith, I'm properly ready, but the mob mentality turned literally deadly. They overestimated my penchant for air. After trying to kill me, yeah, leaving seems fair. A modern incantation armed with my foursome, and almost 5 decades later, this octopi's risen. The voices in Senior Judy's head have long last been muted. Forgiveness can release you and others from a prison.
Talmor, Sheshin Marachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming. And death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.